The white silk dress lay shredded on the marble floor, blood seeping through hand-stitched Hebrew patterns that had survived 79 years only to die tonight. Brooke Davidson stood in the center of Preston Heights Academy's grand ballroom, her grandmother's heirloom dress hanging in tatters, her knees still dripping red onto the Italian marble. Nathan Reynolds sprawled at her feet, his perfect nose bent at an impossible angle, trembling as he mumbled the same words over and over. "I'm not my grandfather. I'm not my grandfather." The prom that started 3 hours ago as a celebration had become a battleground, and everyone who watched the live stream would remember exactly how the mayor's son ended up broken on the floor, defeated by a 17-year-old girl in her grandmother's Holocaust survivor dress. Before I tell you how we got here, if stories about standing up to bullies and breaking cycles of hate matter to you, please take a second to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who might need to hear them. And if you'd like to support the creation of more content that shines light on injustice and celebrates courage, consider hitting the thanks button below. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps me dedicate more time to researching and sharing these powerful narratives that need to be told. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. 3 hours earlier, Brooke had stood before her bedroom mirror, fingers tracing the delicate Star of David embroidered into white silk. Her grandmother Sarah's weathered hands shook as she adjusted the hem one final time. "My darling girl," Sarah whispered, her accent still thick after decades in America. "This dress is all I have left from before 1945. My mother stitched it by candlelight in the ghetto, believing someday her daughter would wear it to something beautiful." "Grandma, I'll be careful with it," Brooke promised, noting how the silk seemed to glow with an inner light, how the Hebrew letters spelled out words of protection and hope. Sarah gripped her granddaughter's hands. "Careful is not what I'm asking. Proud. Be proud of who you are, where you come from. Your father understood this before." Her voice cracked. Brooke's phone buzzed. A text from Samantha Pierce lit up the screen. "Be very careful tonight. Nathan is losing his mind. Someone sent him an old photograph and he's been raging all day. His whole crew is on edge." Brooke hugged her grandmother. "Dad taught me well before he died. I can handle Nathan Reynolds." "Your father was a Marine," Sarah said quietly. "But before that, I taught him what my father taught me. Never again doesn't mean we hide. It means we stand ready." The Preston Heights Academy ballroom sparkled with $10,000 worth of decorations. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow patterns across silk tablecloths. An ice sculpture of the school crest slowly melted at the buffet table. Every detail screamed money and privilege. From the champagne fountain, non-alcoholic, officially, to the professional photographer stationed at the entrance. When Brooke Davidson walked through those gilded doors, the entire room fell silent. She moved with a dancer's grace, the antique dress flowing around her like liquid moonlight. The hand-embroidered patterns caught the light, sending subtle sparkles across ancient Hebrew symbols. Her dark hair was swept up in an elegant twist, revealing the strong line of her jaw, the determined set of her shoulders. At the VIP table in the corner, Nathan Reynolds froze mid-laugh. His blue eyes, usually so cold and calculating, widened with something between rage and disbelief. The mayor's son sat surrounded by his usual crew. Marcus Thompson, his right hand, leaned over and whispered, "Is she seriously wearing that thing, Tyler Harrison?" All 6 feet 3 inches of muscle and barely concealed anxiety, shifted in his seat. His phone vibrated against the table. An anonymous message appeared on the screen. I know your secret. I know what you really want. Tonight, everyone will know." Tyler's face drained of color. He shoved the phone into his pocket, glancing nervously at Marcus. Nathan stood slowly, his designer tuxedo impeccable, his smile sharp as broken glass. Well, looks like our school has an uninvited guest from the past." Brooke found Samantha near the dance floor and hugged her friend. Over Samantha's shoulder, she spotted Jacob Lawson setting up his phone at a discreet angle. The school's unofficial documentarian was already recording, though he tried to make it look casual. "You look absolutely stunning," Samantha said, but her eyes darted nervously toward Nathan's table. "That dress is incredible." "It was my great-grandmother's," Brooke said simply. "Grandma wanted me to wear our history with pride." The DJ started another song, some pop remix that had everyone moving onto the dance floor. Brooke let Jacob pull her into a dance, very aware of Nathan's crew watching every move. She'd transferred to Preston Heights 6 months ago, after her father's military funeral, after her mother decided they needed a fresh start. In those 6 months, she'd learned exactly who ruled this school and how they maintained their power. "You know you're provoking him," Jacob murmured, leading her through a simple two-step. "That dress, those symbols. Nathan's been on edge all day about some Nazi photograph someone slipped into his locker." "I'm not provoking anyone," Brooke replied calmly. "I'm wearing my grandmother's dress to prom. If that provokes him, maybe he should examine why." The dance had barely lasted 30 seconds when Marcus Thompson approached, carrying 2 glasses of what looked like red wine. His movements seemed casual, but Brooke had studied predators. She recognized the calculated steps, the angle of approach designed to look accidental. Time slowed. Marcus tripped. The glasses tilted. Red liquid arced through the air toward white silk worth more than money could ever buy. Brooke moved. Her body flowed like water, bending backward in a move that shouldn't have been possible in heels. The wine splashed harmlessly onto the floor where she'd been standing. She straightened smoothly, not even breathing hard. Marcus stared. "What the hell?" "Clumsy of you," Brooke said evenly. "Good thing I have quick reflexes." Nathan appeared beside Marcus, his face twisted with barely controlled fury. "Think you're some kind of superhero Wonder Woman of the Holocaust? That old Jews versus Nazis sob story." The music hadn't stopped, but dancers nearby began to give them space. Phones appeared in hands, subtle and not so subtle. Everyone sensed blood in the water. "I think," Brooke said clearly, "that I'm a 17-year-old girl wearing her grandmother's dress to prom. You're the one making it about history." "History?" Nathan's laugh was ugly. "You mean fairy tales? Did Grandma tell you bedtime stories about the camps, show you her little tattoo, and cry about how mean the Germans were?" Brooke's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her stance. Subtle, balanced, ready. "My grandmother has number A24791 tattooed on her left forearm. Would you like me to explain what each digit represents? How they catalogued human beings like inventory? Or would you prefer to discuss what your grandfather did during those years?" Nathan's face went white, then red. "You don't know anything about my family." "Don't I?" Brooke asked softly. Tyler stepped forward, phone in hand. On the screen was a black and white photograph, an SS officer standing at attention, skull and crossbones gleaming on his cap. The face was unmistakably similar to Nathan's. Same sharp jaw, same cold eyes, same cruel twist to the mouth. "Someone put this in Nathan's locker this morning," Tyler announced loudly, along with a note that said, Blood never lies. Nathan snatched the phone and smashed it against the nearest table. The crack echoed through the ballroom. That doesn't mean anything. Doesn't it? Brooke asked. Is that why you've spent 3 years terrorizing anyone who's different? Anyone who doesn't fit your perfect Aryan aesthetic? Shut up, Nathan snarled. You shut your lying mouth. Tyler reached for Brooke's dress. Whether to grab her or push her wasn't clear. It didn't matter. Her body moved with practiced precision. Left hand deflected his grab. Right elbow drove into his solar plexus with surgical accuracy. Tyler, all 200 pounds of him, dropped to his knees, gasping for air. A thin line of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. Don't touch the dress, Brooke said quietly. The ballroom erupted. Some people screamed. Others cheered. Most held up their phones, desperate to capture every second. Nathan backed away, his crew forming a protective semicircle around him. You're crazy. You're absolutely insane. No, Brooke said. I'm prepared. There's a difference. The memory hit her then, sharp and sudden. 10 years old, standing in the rain at Arlington National Cemetery. Her father's casket draped in the American flag. Her grandmother's hand tight in hers. He died fighting real evil, Sarah had whispered. In Afghanistan, just like his grandfather fought it in Europe. But evil doesn't always wear uniforms, Babele. Sometimes it wears expensive suits and friendly smiles. After the funeral, the lessons began. Not just Krav Maga, though that was part of it. History lessons, truth lessons. Never again, Sarah would say after each session, means never be unprepared, never be silent, never be afraid to stand. I have something Nathan needs to see, Samantha Pierce announced, stepping forward with a laptop. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady. Something about my sister. About why she really killed herself last year. Marcus made a sharp gesture. 5 more boys materialized from the crowd. All varsity athletes. All part of Nathan's extended network of enforcers. They formed a loose circle around the confrontation. Sam, don't, Nathan warned. You don't want to do this. Yes, Samantha said, tears streaming down her face. I really do. She opened the laptop and connected it to the big screen usually reserved for prom photo slideshows. A video file loaded. A girl's face appeared, pale and haunted. Melissa Pierce, recorded 3 days before she swallowed a bottle of pills. If you're watching this, Melissa's recorded voice filled the ballroom. Then I'm already gone. But people need to know the truth about Nathan Reynolds and Marcus Thompson, about what they do to girls who refuse them, about their basement parties, about the photos they take, and the threats they make. Turn it off, Nathan roared. Marcus moved fast, crossing the space in 3 quick strides. He shoved Samantha hard, sending her sprawling. The laptop crashed to the floor, screen shattering. Then the lights went out. In the sudden darkness, phones provided the only illumination, dozens of small screens creating an eerie glow. Someone screamed. Glass broke. Bodies collided in the confusion. But Brooke Davidson didn't need light to fight. She moved through the darkness like a ghost. The phosphorescent threads her grandmother had woven into the dress glowing faintly. A secret passed down through generations. In the camps, Sarah had explained, we learned to hide light within light, to signal each other in the darkness. This thread remembers. The dress cast just enough glow to make her a target and simultaneously impossible to predict. She felt rather than saw the first attacker. ducked his wild swing, drove her knee into his thigh. He dropped. The second came from behind. She spun, using his momentum against him, sending him crashing into what sounded like the chocolate fountain. "Get her!" Nathan's voice, high and panicked. "Somebody, get her here." A third attacker, smarter than the others, tried to grab the glowing dress itself. Brooke caught his wrist, twisted sharply. The crack of breaking bone was audible even over the chaos. His scream cut through the darkness. "Where's the breaker?" someone shouted. "Find the lights!" More bodies pressed in. Brooke fought with economy of motion, never wasting energy, each strike designed to incapacitate. Her grandmother's lessons echoed in her mind. In the ghetto, in the camps, we learned to fight in the dark. The Nazis would cut the lights before selections, use darkness as a weapon. So we made darkness our ally. Finally, someone found the circuit breaker. Light flooded back into the ballroom, revealing a scene of devastation. 3 of Nathan's crew lay groaning on the floor. The chocolate fountain had indeed been destroyed. Brown liquid spreading across white tablecloths. The ice sculpture had somehow been knocked over, creating a slippery hazard near the buffet. And in the center of it all, Brooke stood untouched, her grandmother's dress still glowing faintly, not a hair out of place. Jacob Lawson had never stopped recording. His hands shook, but his phone stayed steady, broadcasting live to over 5,000 viewers and climbing. "Now," Samantha said, pulling a stack of papers from her purse, "let's talk about the list." She threw the papers into the air. They floated down like snow, each one containing names, dates, incidents, 47 victims over 3 years, girls who'd been cornered, threatened, assaulted, blackmailed, boys who'd been beaten for being different, for being weak, for being gay. A comprehensive record of Nathan Reynolds' reign of terror. Students scrambled to grab the papers, reading with growing horror. Someone's mother, chaperoning near the punch bowl, picked up a sheet and gasped. Tyler Harrison stood on shaking legs, blood still on his lips. "I can't do this anymore," he announced to the room. "I can't be part of this. They have videos of me and Marcus." Nathan moved faster than anyone expected. His fist connected with Tyler's jaw, dropping his own teammate. "Traitor! You pathetic traitor!" "Enough!" The voice that rang out was old, accented, and carried absolute authority. From the shadows near the entrance, a figure emerged, 95 years old, wearing a simple black suit, leaning on a cane but standing straight. Samuel Goldstein, Holocaust survivor. Preston Heights' oldest resident, and honored guest at every school function. He walked slowly across the ballroom, his eyes fixed on Nathan Reynolds, each step deliberate, each second building tension. "I know you, boy," Samuel said, his voice carrying decades of pain and strength. "I recognize you. You have your grandfather's face. Heinrich Reynolds, SS Obersturmführer, Majdanek concentration camp, 1942 to 1944. Nathan stumbled backward. "No, you're lying. You don't know anything." Samuel rolled up his sleeve, revealing faded numbers. B11739. Your grandfather supervised my block. He selected my parents for the gas chambers, my sisters, my baby brother who was only 6 years old. The ballroom was absolutely silent, except for the sound of Nathan's hyperventilating. "I watched him every day for 2 years, Samuel continued. Memorized his face so I would never forget. You don't just look like him. You stand like him. You sneer like him. That exact curl of the lip when you look at someone you consider beneath you. "Stop," Nathan whispered. "Please stop." "Your friend there," Samuel pointed at Brooke with a trembling finger. "She wears her history with pride, but you wear yours with ignorance. You think cruelty makes you strong. Your grandfather thought the same. He died begging for mercy from the Russians, crying like the child he murdered." Nathan's legs gave out. He collapsed to his knees, sobbing. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know who he really was. My family said he was just a soldier, just following orders." "Now you know," Samuel said quietly. "The question is, what you do with that knowledge." Marcus Thompson had stayed quiet through all of this, watching, calculating. Now he moved, smooth as a snake, before anyone could react. He was behind Brooke, one arm around her throat, something sharp pressed against her neck. "Enough of this melodrama," Marcus announced, his voice carrying that particular tone of someone who'd crossed a line and decided to sprint past it. "Everyone stays calm, or your little hero here gets a new red accessory to match the wine I spilled." Brooke felt the knife edge against her skin, cold and real. She could take him, probably, but not without risk, not without potentially getting her throat cut in the process. "Marcus," Tyler groaned from the floor. "Don't do this, please." "Shut up," Marcus pressed the knife harder. "You were supposed to be strong." "We were supposed to be," his voice cracked slightly. "This is all her fault. Coming here, stirring up the past, making everyone weak." "The past was already here," Brooke said calmly, feeling his arm tighten. "You've been recreating it for 3 years, a new generation of perpetrators and victims." I said, "Shut up." The knife pressed deeper. A thin line of warmth traced down Brooke's neck. Someone in the crowd screamed. Nathan looked up from his breakdown, horror replacing despair on his face. "Marcus, stop!" Nathan commanded, trying to summon authority through his tears. "This has gone too far." "Too far," Marcus laughed, high and unhinged. "You're on your knees, crying about your Nazi grandfather, and you think this is too far. You're pathetic. Your whole family is pathetic. At least the old man had conviction." That's when Tyler Harrison did something extraordinary. Tyler Harrison stood up slowly, blood still dripping from his mouth, and looked directly at Marcus Thompson. For 3 years, he'd followed every order, hidden every feeling, pretended to be someone he wasn't. But watching Marcus hold a knife to an innocent girl's throat, something inside him finally shattered. "I love you," Tyler said clearly, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "I've loved you since freshman year, and I've watched you become a monster because I was too much of a coward to stop you." Marcus's hand holding the knife trembled. "What are you talking about, Tyler? You're confused. You hit your head." "No." Tyler took a step forward. "I'm finally thinking clearly. All those nights in your basement, I told myself we were just close friends. All those times you looked at me like you felt it too. But instead of admitting what we were, we hurt people. We destroyed lives because we couldn't face ourselves." "Shut up!" Marcus screamed, but his voice cracked with something beyond anger. "You don't know what you're saying." Heller moved faster than his size suggested possible. 3 years of football training, of protecting Marcus on the field, all condensed into one perfect tackle. He hit Marcus from the side, careful to pull him away from Brooke rather than toward her. The knife went flying. Brooke dove away. Marcus and Tyler crashed into a table, sending centerpieces flying. "I won't let you hurt anyone else," Tyler gasped, trying to pin Marcus down. "Not for my sake. Not because I'm afraid people will find out about us." Marcus's face contorted with rage and pain. His hand found a shard of broken glass from the shattered centerpiece. Without hesitation, he drove it into Tyler's side. Tyler's eyes went wide. Blood bloomed across his white dress shirt, like a terrible flower. He looked down at the wound, then back at Marcus's face. "I still love you," he whispered, and collapsed. Tyler. Brooke was there in an instant, her dress already tearing as she ripped strips of silk to compress the wound. The precious heirloom that had survived the Holocaust was sacrificed without hesitation to save a life. "Someone call 911. Now, the ballroom erupted into chaos. Students screamed, chaperones finally moved, rushing toward the injured boy. Someone was already on the phone with emergency services. Tyler's eyes fluttered as Brooke applied pressure to the wound. His lips moved weakly. Tell him I loved him, but couldn't watch anymore. Couldn't be part of the hurt." "You tell him yourself," Brooke said firmly, pressing harder as blood seeped through the silk. "You're going to be fine. Stay with me." Jacob Lawson kept his phone steady, broadcasting everything. The viewer count had passed 20,000. Comments flooded in faster than anyone could read them. The Preston Heights prom was trending nationally. The ballroom doors burst open. Mayor Reynolds stormed in with his wife, their faces masks of fury and fear. They'd clearly been called, pulled from some political fundraiser based on their formal attire. "Nathan!" his mother screamed, seeing her son still on his knees, tear-stained and broken. "Oh God, not my baby, not my son." The mayor's eyes swept the scene, his son crying, bodies on the floor, blood spreading from Tyler Harrison, cameras everywhere. His political mind calculated rapidly. "Everyone put your phones away, now! This is a crime scene, and no recordings." Nobody moved. If anything, more phones appeared. "I said put them away," Mayor Reynolds roared. He gestured to the security guards who'd accompanied him. "Confiscate every device. Lock down this building. Nobody leaves until we sort this out." "Too late for that," Samantha said, holding up her phone. "Everything's already uploaded. The assault, the confession about your father, the list of victims. The whole world is watching. Mayor Reynolds." The mayor's face went purple. "You little. This is defamation, slander. My family built this town." "Your family built this town on silence," old Samuel Goldstein said, his voice cutting through the noise. "Just like your father tried to build a new life on the ashes of the children he murdered." "Lies," the mayor shouted. "My father was a war hero. He fought communism. He was Heinrich Reynolds, the butcher of Block 7. Samuel interrupted. "I have documents, photos, testimony from 6 other survivors. We've always known. We stayed quiet because we thought the sins of the father shouldn't pass to the son. But look what silence created." Mrs. Reynolds had reached Nathan, pulling him into her arms, but her face, when she looked up, held a terrible knowledge. "I knew," she whispered, and the microphones picked it up, broadcasting her confession to 30,000 viewers. "God help me, I knew. When I married into this family, I found the old papers, the real immigration documents, the forged identity." She pulled back her sleeve, revealing old scars on her wrist. "I tried to kill myself when I learned the truth, But David convinced me to stay quiet, for Nathan's sake, for the family name. And look what we created. Look what our silence birthed. Shut up! Mayor Reynolds grabbed his wife's arm roughly. Not another word. That's when the sirens became audible. Not just one ambulance for Tyler, but multiple vehicles. Police, news vans. The live stream had done its work. Dad! Nathan looked up at his father with hollow eyes. Is it true? Was grandfather really? The mayor's silence was answer enough. Nathan let out a sound like a wounded animal. He struggled to his feet, pushing away from his mother. All of it. Everything I am. Everything I've done. It's all poisoned. It's all evil repeating itself. Son, stop being dramatic. The mayor snapped. This is damage control time. We need to... His phone rang. He answered it, face going pale as he listened. What do you mean? The FBI. On what grounds? Marcus, still on the floor but conscious, laughed bitterly. You think you're the only one with connections. Mr. Mayor. He pulled out his own phone with blood-stained fingers. My dad owns half this state. He's probably already mobilizing, as if summoned by his words. The ballroom doors opened again. CEO Robert Thompson entered like he owned the place, which technically he partially did. Thompson Industries had donated half the money for the school's recent renovation. 6 private security contractors flanked him, all wearing tactical gear that definitely wasn't standard for a prom. Well, CEO Thompson surveyed the chaos with cold eyes. Seems my son has created quite a mess. Marcus, get up, we're leaving. Sir, your son stabbed someone, a chaperone said bravely. He can't just leave. Thompson's smile was winter frost. Can't he? I think you'll find he can. Lock the doors, gentlemen. Nobody enters or exits until we've resolved this situation. The security team moved efficiently, blocking all exits. One of them had a signal jammer, and suddenly phones started losing connection. The live streams cut off. The uploads stalled. No, Samantha frantically tried her phone. The evidence everyone needs to see. Already saw it, someone shouted from the crowd. Already saved it. Already shared it. You're too late. A new voice joined the chaos. Brooke recognized her. Jennifer Wu, captain of the debate team. Mr. Thompson, are you really taking 200 high school students hostage to protect your son from assault charges? Hostage is such an ugly word, Thompson replied smoothly. I prefer to think of it as containing a situation until cooler heads prevail. My son was clearly provoked. The video will show he acted in self-defense.
Self-defense, Tyler wheezed from the floor. EMTs finally reaching him, despite the security blocking their full entry. I was trying to stop him from slitting a girl's throat.
You were confused, Thompson said coldly. Emotionally disturbed, making false allegations about a relationship with my son. The ravings of someone in shock. Marcus flinched at that, looking at Tyler being loaded onto a stretcher. For just a moment, his mask slipped, showing something raw and painful beneath. This is our prom, a voice shouted from the crowd. Ashley Chen, student body president, stepped forward. Our night, our lives. And we're not going to let you rich psychopaths control us anymore. The students surged forward as one. 200 teenagers. Tired of being afraid. Tired of being silenced. Tired of watching their friends suffer. They moved like a wave toward the security team. The guards, trained for corporate security, not riot control. hesitated. They couldn't exactly start beating up kids at prom. Not with every parent in town now arriving. Drawn by social media and sirens, Brooke stood up. Tyler's blood still on her hands, her grandmother's dress destroyed, but its purpose fulfilled. She faced CEO Thompson directly. You can't stop this. Every phone might be jammed, but the world already saw. The FBI is already coming. Your son is going to face justice, and so is Nathan, and so are you for this attempted cover-up. Thompson's composure finally cracked. You stupid little girl. Do you have any idea who you're messing with? I own judges. I own police commissioners. You own nothing. Principal Morrison's voice cut through as he entered with actual police officers. This is my school. These are my students. And you, Mr. Thompson, are under arrest for false imprisonment, obstruction of justice, and about 6 other charges the district attorney is drawing up as we speak. The security contractors looked at the real police, calculated their odds, and stepped aside. They were hired to protect Thompson, not to fight law enforcement. You can't arrest me, Thompson sputtered. I'll have your badge, Sir, you're being live-streamed by about 60 news cameras outside, the officer said calmly. I suggest you stop talking. As they led Thompson away, Marcus looked lost. Like a puppet with cut strings, the police approached him next. But Brooke stepped between them. He needs medical attention first, she said. He's injured and in shock. Take him to the hospital with Tyler. You can sort out charges there. Nathan had watched all of this unfold like a man watching his own execution. As the chaos swirled around him, he moved, quietly, purposefully. He headed for the service stairs. Only Brooke noticed. Only she followed. She found him on the roof access balcony, 3 stories up, standing at the edge. The night wind whipped his hair, carrying the sounds of sirens and chaos from below. Don't come closer, Nathan said without turning. I know what I am now. I know what's in my blood. I can't live as him. I won't become my grandfather. Then don't, Brooke said simply, staying by the door. Choose to be better. How? Nathan laughed bitterly. How do you wash off that kind of evil? My grandfather murdered children. I've spent 3 years tormenting anyone different. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. My father died fighting terrorists in Afghanistan, Brooke said quietly. Real evil. The kind that stones women and burns schools. But he didn't fight because he hated them. He fought because he loved what he was protecting. There's a difference between becoming a monster and stopping monsters. I am the monster, Nathan screamed, turning to face her. Tears streamed down his face. Don't you get it? I'm exactly what he was. A bully. A coward who hurts the weak.
Were, Brooke corrected. Past tense. You have a choice now. Your grandfather died unrepentant, cursing his victims. You can die the same way, or you can live and do better. Make amends. Use your family's money and influence for something good. Nathan swayed at the edge. How do you forgive someone like me? I don't, Brooke said honestly. That's not mine to give, but I can refuse to let you take the coward's way out. My grandmother survived hell so I could stand here. Your victims deserve more than your suicide. They deserve your work to make things right. Nathan's foot slipped. For a moment, he teetered, arms windmilling. Brooke moved without thinking, launching herself forward. Her hand caught his as he fell backward. The physics were all wrong.
She weighed maybe 120. He was easily 180. They both should have gone over. But the dress, what remained of it, caught on the balcony railing. The same silk that had survived 70 years of history held for one more crucial moment. Other hands joined hers, students who'd followed them up, forming a human chain. Together, they pulled Nathan back from the edge. He collapsed on the safe side of the railing, sobbing into his mother's arms as she reached them. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know how to fix what I've done." "Start by listening," Samantha said quietly, "to every person you hurt, every story you silenced. Then figure out how to help them heal." 6 months later, Brooke stood in the Preston Heights Holocaust Memorial Center, teaching a Krav Maga class to 30 students. The space had been donated by the Reynolds family. Nathan's college fund redirected to establish it. Nathan himself was across town in therapy, his 4th session this week. He'd testified against Marcus and CEO Thompson, helped identify every victim, set up a fund for their therapy and education. He volunteered at the Memorial Center, learning the history his family had hidden, facing the truth daily. Tyler had survived. Barely. 8 hours of surgery, 2 months of recovery. He'd testified via video link, finally free to speak his truth. He had a boyfriend now, a sweet kid from another school who didn't care about his past. Marcus watched that testimony from a juvenile facility, awaiting trial as an adult for attempted murder. "Remember," Brooke told her students, "we don't learn to fight because we want to hurt people. We learn so we never have to be afraid, so we can stand up for others who can't stand for themselves." After class, she visited her father's grave. Her grandmother was there, as she was every Sunday, placing fresh stones on the headstone. "The dress?" Sarah asked, though she already knew. "Destroyed," Brooke admitted. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I know how much it meant." Sarah smiled, pulling a bag from behind the headstone. Inside was a new dress, white silk, embroidered with the same patterns. But woven through the design were strips of the old dress, blood-stained and torn, but still present. "A dress is just fabric," Sarah said. "What matters is what it represents. The old dress served its purpose. It gave you strength when you needed it. Now we make new from old, carrying the history forward, but not letting it trap us." Brooke held the dress up to the light. The old threads and new wove together seamlessly, creating something both ancient and modern, painful and beautiful. "For those who suffer in silence," Brooke said, reading the tiny embroidered message her grandmother had added along the hem. "Your voice matters. Speak. And for those who cause suffering," Sarah added, "redemption is possible, but only through truth, accountability, and change." They stood together in the cemetery, 3 generations of survival and strength, as the sun set over Preston Heights. The town would never be the same. The secrets were in the light now. The victims heard. The powerful held accountable. And somewhere across town, Nathan Reynolds sat in a support group, listening to another survivor's story, learning that the only way to honor the dead was to protect the living. He would spend the rest of his life trying to balance the scales his grandfather had tipped toward evil. The dress hung in Brooke's closet, waiting for the next moment when someone would need to remember that standing up to evil, no matter how entrenched or powerful, was not just possible, but necessary. That sometimes the greatest strength was not in fighting, but in refusing to become what you fight against. Never again meant never silent, never complicit, never afraid to speak truth to power. And in Preston Heights, at least, never had finally come to mean something. The story of that night spread far beyond Preston Heights. News outlets picked it up, documentaries were made, and schools across the country started conversations about bullying, historical trauma, and the courage to stand up. But for Brooke, the most important changes were the small ones. She noticed them in the hallways, how students who once walked with their heads down now made eye contact, how the lunch tables, once strictly segregated by social hierarchy, began to blur and mix, how teachers started actually seeing what happened in their classrooms instead of turning away. 3 years later, at her high school graduation, Brooke was chosen to give the valedictorian speech. She stood at the podium wearing a simple blue dress, but pinned to her chest was a piece of her grandmother's original silk, now framed in silver. "We learned something important that night," she told the packed auditorium, "that evil isn't just in history books or distant countries. It's in the small cruelties we ignore, the silence we maintain, the fear we let control us. But we also learned that courage is contagious. When one person stands up, others find their strength." In the audience, Nathan Reynolds sat with his mother. He'd aged years in months, his once cruel face now marked with the lines of someone who'd faced hard truths. He would never fully atone, some things couldn't be undone, but he spent every day trying. The Holocaust Center he'd helped fund had become a model for others, teaching not just history, but how to recognize and stop the patterns of hatred before they took root. Marcus Thompson wasn't there. He was serving 5 to 7 years. His father's empire crumbled under federal investigation. Sometimes Tyler still visited him, trying to reach the boy he'd loved beneath the monster Marcus had become. Sometimes there were glimpses of hope. Most times there weren't. The applause was thunderous. But Brooke's eyes were on her grandmother in the front row. Sarah nodded once, tears streaming down her weathered face. The story that started in horror had found its way to hope. Not perfect hope, not complete justice, but enough to keep fighting for better. Never again had become never stop trying. And that, perhaps, was the most important lesson of all.